We're here with a very special guest, my man Jack. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me on, and it's pretty exciting to be on one of these. I've never done this before, so looking forward to it.
Awesome, and we have your co-host here, Brian. Right, not the man of the hour, but this is fun, right? We've done this before, where we've gotten folks that have had big paydays and big wins, but this is the biggest one I've heard so far from from anyone that is in the Occupy community.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I'm happy to share the spotlight as a co-host today. We got a big $50,000 winner. It's even better because not only is he a member, but Jack, you and I known each other before Occupy, and just awesome to see you win this type of money.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I think Brian deserves more than the normal, supporting role he's getting here. I mean, we go way back. We talk almost every day about football, and back the days of like playing, flag football in the mall, and so.
Nice. So he brought you into the degeneracy.
All the way. I probably didn't even know what DraftKings was until I started talking to Brian. So,
yeah. To be fair, we may have comprised the most dynamic receiving duo that flag football league has ever seen. So, just for record.
Was this University of Maryland?
No,
it was like DC intramural sports.
Yeah,
naked, where you played on the mall. Yeah,
nice.
Like the refs are like text messaging during your plays and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's how most intramural sports go. We were just playing kickball, and one of the refs was streaming his games on Sunday. I swear, he had his phone out. Sunday league's not the best idea for everyone, but like, come on, if we're gonna be here, like, pay attention. Yeah, so how does it feel, man? A few days, had some time to process it, right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like it hasn't worn off yet. It's pretty cool. I mean, I'm glad that I like don't have access to it right away because it's forced me to think about what to do with it, But nice. Yeah, I feel really lucky, and it's fun to talk about, and like I think the hardest thing honestly was I didn't want to be a dick and like tell a million people. And everyone on Monday is like, "Oh, how was your weekend?" And it's like it was really hard to not just like smile and like I'd be like, "Oh, it's pretty good." Like
Did you watch any of the games? Like, what did you think of the games?
I watched.
Right. So like, do you casually play DFS? I know that you, from what Brian told me, you play high stakes season long leagues, but are you a casual DFS player?
Very casual. I've been playing the FFPC leagues pretty intensely, and talked to Brian a lot about those, and honestly have been doing DraftKings for a few years, but mostly just kind of like maybe a couple cash lineups and then some big GPPs. And my honest goal was like throw a couple $100 in and see if I can at least just break even for the year and always have a very, very small chance at a big payout. I would say recently, last couple of months, I've been talking more to Brian about, some other kind of contests and reading what you guys have to say about them and looking for better targets, and thinking about trying to make money, but I hadn't really gotten to that point yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, as we always talk about, the big GPPs are the biggest money drainers there are, but you have that realistic expectation. Like, you're a smart guy. It's not, your primary hobby. You do it for fun, just to throw a couple bucks in and see what you can do. And here you go. Look at you. You threw a couple bucks in. Now you turn into this. So.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. Like, it's not a moneymaker, and I knew that. It was just kind of fun, and we'd also talked about, like, when you start doing a lot of these leagues, whether it's FFPC or other season long and DFS, you kind of get into just combined exposure to players in general, no matter what leagues you're doing, and that's kind of how I've been viewing it.
Nice. Yeah, and obviously, with the playoffs, we only had 4 games to choose from. So differentiating in such a large contest, how'd you end up doing it?
It wasn't easy. I definitely had, I think I did 15 lineups in that contest this time. And it was, you couldn't get away from things like negative correlation plays on a lot of them, like a defense against a tight end or a wide receiver and stuff like that. That was really hard.
It looks ugly, right? You're like, you don't want to stomach it.
I honestly was not a huge fan of that lineup. It was not my favorite one. It wasn't my least favorite. But no, I'm with you. It's really challenging in a 4-game slate, and 15 lineups may have been overly aggressive. I kind of took some of the Occupy and Brian's advice and did some of the single game slates. But I figured it's worth a shot, and but yeah, you're right. It was very challenging.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, 15 lineups, and we had a couple members and followers ask us, how many lineups did he create to get that top prize, and did he use any other sites to make those lineups? So, what was your thought process making those 15 lineups? And you talked about player exposures and things like that. Just what was your general strategy going in with 15 lineups? What were you trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so honestly, I came up with 15 because I ended up doing two $25 cash lineups, and it's kind of worked out where it was my break-even strategy, right? I'm like, all right, if I lose all my $3 lineups and I hit my cash, I'm still fine. And then as far as content, I like to just read a few credible sources like you guys and Football Guys. I usually read a few of their on their hot page they have, or their landing page, they have the GPP like tips and tricks, I think, is one of them, and then GPP domination is one. So I just try to read a few of those, and then that helps me figure out my exposures. Like if I really like a guy, it's good to read like, well, I should only do Hopkins, for example. It seemed like a no-brainer play this week, but you read a lot of articles and you realize like probably shouldn't go above 40-50%. Whereas I feel like if I would not look at anything, I might have put him in 80 or 90% of things.
Right.
So I feel like it's just good to try to skim multiple perspectives as opposed to going all in on a single source. I mean, I think you guys go like really in depth and also make it entertaining to read. But I think it's important to at least just look at least two sources whenever you're doing something.
Oh, you have to. No, and kind of to your point with Hopkins, it almost like he was the type of person that people were starting their lineups with, right? Like, or like after Zeke, he was pretty much a lock. So like all it took with at his price was for him to not even have a great game. He turned out not to have like a great game, but even if he had a slightly better game, that was just a huge pivot as far as the money you saved on such a small slate. Where I don't know how high owned was he in that contest?
He was Brian, what did I say, like 55? I want to say
he was like 50 to 60% right up there with T.Y. Hilton. Like both of those guys were obviously the most popular of the slate and also the most expensive at the position. So
yeah, and another point I think, like you said about he wouldn't even have to have he could have a pretty good game and still not meet value. I guess another way I try to look at these is instead of trying to think every guy I pick has to hit 4x or 5x, it's more like, can this guy score 25 points or so?
Yeah,
because if you kind of do 25 with the defense, say 10, that's about 220, 230. So it's guys like Marlon Mack, like, can he score 25 points? Yeah, and that's five. I think it was 5,200 or some. QT, can he? Yeah, he's done that. So it's nice to have some lineups where you say, yeah, every single guy
breaking it down.
Yeah, right. As opposed, go ahead.
No, in the sense of like correlation, right? It's such a big thing that like it's easy to get almost too caught up into it. Whereas sure, there might be some guys that can hit value, but to win a contest like that, you really need the upside. It's not enough to get like 2-3 catches.
Right. It doesn't help if like you have a guy who's 3K and he gets 9 points and he has 3x value. Like you're not going to win a contest like that. I think it's a good reminder that we always get caught up in value, and a lot of times it makes sense to do that in lower risk contests. You play your cash contest, it makes sense. You want guys that can hit 3x, but you do need that upside in these types of contests. So I think that's a pretty good strategy. Just generally, can this guy hit 20 or 25 points? If not, he probably shouldn't be in my high risk, my GPP, my leagues type lineup.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing I've learned is that I think when I first started, I was trying to pack in, who is the cheapest $30 to $3,200 guy that could score like 10 points, and then I'm like, oh, I can now afford 3 studs, and that just doesn't seem as, maybe you do some of those, but like you said, getting 10 points from one of those guys is probably not going to win you the big money.
Right. So take us through your weekend. Obviously, normally on Sundays you get one slate, right? By 6 hours from then, where you stand here on playoff wildcard weekend. It's the weekend from Saturday to Sunday. So where'd you stand after the Dallas-Seattle game? How'd you feel about your chances at that point?
Yeah, so I kind of the nice thing about that many laps is I kind of just tune it out and
Yeah.
like watch football for a while. So yeah, after Dallas Seattle, I looked and I figured most of my lamps are crap, as I saw it, and then I saw this one. There was one other one, but it was really this one, and I was like, man, I've used half my guys and everyone's about at the right value. Like this looks very live.
Yeah.
So I was like reasonably excited, and I'm a cynic, so I was more
You
like, all
played
right,
enough to
here.
know that, right? Like, it's
I'm
no,
not going to
no.
waste my whole day tomorrow and then just be mad when it doesn't work.
Right.
So
Right.
get up Sunday and I actually showed it to Brian and at the time I had Lamar and Baltimore defense in there as a stack, which
Mm-hmm.
going in I thought was pretty good. He's
Yeah.
a high floor guy.
Right.
Baltimore took it to Rivers last time.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of was doing a little bit of research and then talking to Brian and kind of figured, one, I read something that because Baltimore had played San Diego already, there was a strong argument that San Diego could be able to defend Lamar a lot better. And they actually limited his rushing a lot the first game anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it was that combined with talking to Brian and realizing, he was like, dude, that lineup is so live. Like, you got to play a quarterback stack in there. Luckily,
Yeah.
I had Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
And Trubisky was a similar price, and I could get it under the cap.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other decision was switching to San Diego, which was a little more 50-50 kind of
Yeah.
decision. But, kind of just in that idea that, hey, San Diego's played him already. He's
Right.
probably not going to be able to adapt like a veteran quarterback would.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I think, again, another aspect where luck was involved there. If I hadn't had
Sure.
a little bit of cap space to maneuver, or I hadn't gotten lucky with the similar values in those guys, I wouldn't have been able to make that
Mm-hmm.
switch.
And that was a big switch, right? Like that's why you're $50,000 richer here. But I mean, as far and to like kind of capitalize on like recency bias too, right? These two teams did just recently play, and the Ravens went into LA and took it to him. And at that point, honestly, like the way Lamar Jackson came into the postseason, you would think, hey, like he's gonna give you a high floor. He's already carved his team up, but the Chargers outcoached him. They pretty much said, we're going to force you to do something else but this. And the Ravens refused to do that for 3 quarters. So,
Yeah, I mean, they legit didn't play a linebacker on any
no,
snaps
yeah,
the
they had
entire
four
game.
safeties in. I swear they had 3-4 safeties in it at certain points. And
Yeah.
the Ravens, just would die with the 3 tight end packages. They're like, just like those predictable formations. But yeah, Trubisky, it came down to it for you that second half of the Chicago Philly game.
I like Trubisky. I had him in several other lineups. I think I may have had him in 3 other of the 15. So I like the play. Just he didn't happen to be in that one. But yeah, so
okay.
Got to the last game and going in, I was maybe 35 points down to first, or maybe 40, I think, which was like really good, right? I was like, holy shit, like this could happen. First half was super.
And you had Ertz. You had Ertz too, right?
Oh yeah, I had Ertz. Yeah, that also helped. So first half was terrible. It's like no one's moving the ball. I'm like talking to Brian, like, come on, guy. Like they can't even get Trubisky can't even get first downs. He's not running. He got hurt.
Do something.
So by the end of the first half, I was kind of like, all right, whatever. I'm going to win like $100, but this was a solid lineup. And then there was that one drive where he hit Robinson a couple times, including the 40-yard bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And Ertz had been kind of nickel and diming, and I just kind of checked again, and I was only like 16 points down from the top. And the other interesting thing was everyone at the top either was done or just had a defense.
Mm-hmm.
And the defenses weren't making huge plays, luckily. That's another thing I had to escape was, a Bears pick 6 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was in striking range. And then there's that one, the drive, he looked to Robinson and threw the bomb up, and I was like, stood up and like he caught it, and I just started screaming. And my girlfriend's like, what's going on over here? And I had to show her. And hopefully this is not too long-winded, but that got me the third.
No, I felt like I just relived that through you. Like I appreciate that. That was.
Dude, I saw him. I knew that, and I knew when the ball was in the air that like this is it. Like they're not going to do it again. Like this is the shot.
Yeah.
So that got me to third. It's 15K, and I was already like, all right, this is pretty sick. I was 2 points, and I have photographic memories of these parts.
Yeah,
I was 2
you
points
should,
down
right?
to second, and 5 points down to first.
Mm.
Both guys had Robinson. Makes sense, right?
Okay, right.
Yeah, when
but
that
that's
play
it.
happened, all of
They had
Robinson lineups went up.
mhm.
But I had him too, and I had Ertz and Trubisky, and there was like 10 minutes left in the game. So I
Yeah,
was like 5 points from. There's no way I can't get this.
right. Yeah.
But the Eagles took that really long drive, and Ertz only had one catch. So when it was 4th and goal on the 2, I was still in third, which means if they didn't score there, Jordan Howard runs it up the middle 3 times, and that's probably it, right?
Mhm.
And then I get third, which is great. But
Sure, but
thank
you win
you,
your
Golden
close
Tate.
to it, right?
Yeah, so Golden Tate scored, and at that point, it was more like relief because I was like, all right, he's gonna complete a couple passes here.
Yeah.
And so I got over the second guy, and I may have been fusing this a little bit, but basically it came down to Trubisky needed that +3 on the 300 yards,
Yeah.
and he got that on the second to last completion, I think. And then I
Mhm.
watched the refresh thing bump me up, and I was like, that was it. So
Yeah, baby.
yeah, dude, I think the most
Nice.
dramatic
Let's
part was like
go.
once Robinson scored that next 5-10 minutes. It was crazy, man. I haven't felt that in like a long time.
Yeah.
Dude, that was, I mean, just texting you back and forth during that whole time. And I'm like, obviously way less stakes, but I have that Bears future. And I'm just so conflicted. I'm like, oh my God, Jack's winning. I'm like, man, fuck the Bears. God damn it. And then, the last drive was like, hey man, we can both win. And then Parkey blows it. But that's not the point. The point is, you had this crazy sweat, and very rarely do those sweats pay out. Like you said, you've done it before, and you know that a lot of times it doesn't happen. But I mean, it came down to it, and everything went perfectly. And hats off to you, just a hell of a lineup.
Yeah,
Oh
thanks, man. I
yeah,
mean,
man.
it was a cool lineup. It obviously takes a lot of luck, and I guess my biggest point to anyone listening is like diversify. Even if you hate players, like I did
Mhm.
not like Marlon Mack this week. I
Sure.
only had him
Yeah.
in 2, but like we said, can he score 25 points? Yeah, and he was a good price and not very
Mhm.
highly owned. So just got to throw those guys
Diversify.
in there.
And yeah, that's something Brian and I always discuss, like human bias, right? And like you got to know your biases even within DFS. Like there are certain players you don't like. There might be certain things you don't like, such as playing players against your defense, right? And we're not saying we're not advocating for that on like a 16 game slate, but when there are only 4 games and pretty much you're getting players from different teams, you're bound to have to do that. So, yeah, definitely don't be afraid to diversify and take guys you don't like.
Yeah, and the only other thing is that I think one of you said it, but like literally every single thing had to go right. Like
Yeah.
I actually needed that last meaningless like 8-yard completion, I think, to Robinson to make it go up.
Mm,
It was
yeah.
those. I needed both of those last 2 plays. That was the difference. So the amount of luck like cannot be understated,
Right, and
even
that's
with
not
a great lineup.
right, and that's, yeah. I mean, you scored 200 points, beat 300,000 people, and
That's
obviously,
so crazy.
I mean, it's actually not.
It's insane because it's a 4 game slate. That makes it even crazier to me.
It does, and like our minds obviously fixate on that last drive of Chicago, but I'm sure there were plays in the other games that were so important. That strip sack of Lamar Jackson at the end of the
Mm,
game,
I need those 3 points. Yeah.
right? Marlon Mack going over the 100-yard bonus. Like, there's all these plays throughout the week, and obviously we remember the very last ones. But you had a lot of things had to go right, so it's not like you had this great strategy. And it's like, yeah, it's a 10 steps to winning $50,000 on DraftKings, right? Like you need a lot of luck in addition to having some great lineups. So.
Step 1, make a lineup. Steps 2 through 10, like pray.
yeah, those are big. Well, now that you're 50K richer, like, have you been looking at next week's slate at all? Like, are you kind of a little off the fan?
Oh, I've been looking. Come on,
Yeah.
man. Are you kidding?
Good. I love to hear that. And yeah, let's talk about some of these games, and if you have any early feelings between the both of you, Brian and Jack.
Yeah, we can definitely do it. Wait, real quick though, Jack, do you have any, like, what's your plan moving forward with the 50,000?
Yeah.
If you cashed out, like, what's have you just stared at it every minute of every day? What have you been doing?
I have stared at it multiple times per day. First to make sure it was real, and more now just to kind of relive the like, holy crap, But no, I cashed most of it out. I'm gonna, like we talked about, I'm a very casual player, and I had already been ramping up my DFS play, but I'm gonna take some time this off season and like try to actually put a plan together of how I might invest more into it. if I was 23, I probably would start playing $1,000 contests or I have those. And honestly, when I was in high school, I put in $20 into like online poker, got to like five grand, which when you're 18 was like, insane. Started playing
honestly at any age.
Started playing like $500 sit and goes, lost it
Yeah.
all in like a day. Fortunately, I've learned those lessons. So, I'm just going to kind of take it slow. And but I do want to keep playing, and this definitely, makes it more exciting to keep playing, even though I know it'll never happen again.
Right. And it'll make it a lot easier to once again come up with these sort of lineups, right? Like experiencing that win. Now it's like, yeah, anything I can come up with can work.
Right.
Yeah,
seriously. So but that's smart though. I mean, just taking the time and taking a step back, and we only have a couple slates left anyway, so just taking this off season to really planning out. We talk about in our book, The Ultimate Guide, like it's so important to really plan out what your goals are and what you're trying to do with DFS. And so by being smart about that and taking a step back, and then combining that with because I imagine you're going to ramp up your season long exposure next year as well. And you and I were talking about some more FFPC leagues. So just mixing that all together and really figuring out a plan. I think that's super smart.
Yeah, and figuring out how much time you really want to allocate to it, because it does. I mean, you guys do more lineups than I do, and I'm sure you can attest to how much time and focus it takes to come up with quality lineups when you're doing that much.
For sure. Yeah, no, honestly, I make like 2-3 lineups regularly. But for what, because I'm at that point where like unless you're max entering or like targeting a specific contest, like the options are infinite. And if you're really taking time to make lineups, like it's tough to create many.
Yeah, and you guys are doing all the sports too. I mean, that's like another level.
Yeah, it's pretty much life revolves around it. Let's just say that. Yeah.
So we got the Colts and Chiefs, which has the highest over and under, and going to be a very popular game to roster. First of all, from a football perspective, Colts were ridiculously impressive last week. I think they're probably a team that a lot of people weren't taking serious, but they enter less than a touchdown underdog, 5.5 points in Kansas City.
Yeah, so traveling on the road, I imagine it'll be very popular, right? People somehow forgot about Kansas City after a week off, and everyone saw on the island game, saw the Colts put the beat down on the Texans. So they'll be popular. And I imagine, and just looking at the early bets, a lot of bets are coming in on Indianapolis, but the line has actually moved in the other direction. It's moved up from 4.5 up to 5.5. So, Jack, what are your early thoughts here? Do you think the line's appropriate?
I'm with you. You said you thought it was a little low, and I think I'd agree. And isn't it this kind of what they call a trap game where the line is moving opposite of public action?
Yeah, some reverse line movement in play. So, and you see a lot of stats about teams going on the road multiple times in the playoffs, and especially a team on the bye. Like it's a lot of trends going against Indy. So I think lead is a lot of factors working against them. Add in the reverse line movement. I mean, probably not a good shot Indy pulls this off. So I think we need to consider that when making the DFS lineups.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I'll say this. I mean, you look at, first of all, like I don't know exactly what the weather is going to be. I read that there might be heavy rain at points, but maybe I'm off. I don't know if that would even affect the game from as far as these offenses are concerned, but I do think that the Chiefs' defense is trash, and the fact that their offense is as good as it is, like there's going to be plenty of fantasy value on both sides, and it's going to be popular for a reason.
Right, Jack. Does anybody stand out to you DFS wise this early?
Yeah, I mean the one that jumped off to me was Damian Williams. Honestly, I feel like people are going to pull it up and look at Marlon Mack, and I'd be curious if you guys ever look at this or if someone has, but they show the opponent rank right there, and they turn the bad defense as green, right? So they're going to look at Mack and go, oh, 31st green, $5,800. He just scored whatever 25 points. Great play, I think, for sure. Probably going to be very highly owned, and especially because I think people will want to have the Mahomes, Kelsey, Mahomes, Hill, and they'll say, oh, 2 Chiefs pass catchers plus Mac. It's kind of a good correlation play there. I mean, Lamar Miller caught what 7-8 passes in that game last
He
week,
did.
and I think it's a safe bet that Williams. I think he outplayed Spencer Ware, and there's no reason we think Spencer Ware is necessarily 100%. Cover two defense, lots of reasons to kind of check down and run against it. So, I think he's somewhere in the fives. I'm trying to look. I got it open right now.
No,
He's 51. So, if my guess is that a Mac, Mahomes, Tyreek / Kelsey is going to be a chalk lineup, my first instinct would kind of be Damian Williams and then a Luck Hilton or a Luck Ebron kind of lineup. But
I like
I'll
it.
have both.
Yeah, right. With your 15 lineups. But no, I like it. I mean, this is someone who's had over 20, I think 21 targets here the last 5 weeks, and a healthy dose in the running game. He's averaging about 10 carries over the last few weeks. So it's not really like a guy that you're just counting on to, catch passes. He can, create both ways. And he did have, that game against the Chargers where you're like, okay, he can get that 25 points, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And they extended his contract too. They signed him to a couple of years more on his deal. So that alone shows that he's the guy to have there. Even if Spencer Ware does come back, I think Damian showed that he's the lead back now, just, looking at the contract details and what they've done for him. So it just seems like a perfect pivot play. We'll look at ownership here Wednesday or Thursday when it comes out in the model. But Jack, I would agree with you. I think that he'll be significantly far less owned than Mac will be.
Awesome.
So Sean McVay gets an extra week to prepare for the Dallas Cowboys. And I, for one, we were right, Brian, on the Cowboys. Me and Brian had picked all 4 games the same. I think we went 2-2, right?
Yep, sounds about right.
Well, we were right on Dallas, but I'm selling all my Dallas stock. They're going to get destroyed in my eyes this week.
What do you think, Jack? I'll defer this question to you.
Oh man, so I'm going to preface by saying you guys do this for a living, and I'm an
not at all. Far from it, actually.
Of the 4 lines I saw, I actually like Dallas +7 the most, just from a pure football perspective. I feel like the Rams are kind of overrated. I guess I feel like they kind of choked away last year when they lost to Atlanta in the playoffs, I think, and that wasn't a particularly great Atlanta team. And another example, and it kind of gets back to DFS. So I look at I'm still looking at the running backs in the slate. You got Elliott sitting there, and it says opponent rank Rams 6th. I think I checked the DVOA rankings, and the Rams are like really close to the bottom in run defense. Conversely, Gurley is sitting here at 19th according to DraftKings, but you go to DVOA, and I think they're top 5 against the run. So I don't know. I think Dallas is built to play a close game. I'm not saying they'll win, but I could see Rams by 3 or 4, something like that, if I had to guess.
Right. And the Rams, like you said, their run defense has been far from good. They've been bad at points in time this year, like really bad. So no, that's a fair point. Thing for me here is I just and Brian knows how much I love Sean McVay. I think like this is historically just one of the best offenses in league history, like top 5 in that category. I mean, it's easy to kind of forget, like they're averaging 37 points a game at home this year. And I don't know, I just think maybe it's not that deep of an analysis, but that extra week just gives them, I don't know, we'll see. But if there's one game where I feel like, well, there's Saints are also in action, but if there's one game where I feel very confident in like betting on, I think the Rams.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious what you think. Either stats or just feel watching them like before and after Cooper Kupp went out. I mean, do you think it's affected them? Do you think they're out of it? I mean,
it certainly affected them. I mean, he was a beast, right? Like what he did, what he's been able to do in the slot, really anywhere. Like he can play anywhere. But I mean, even like the last 3 games, they still averaged 34 points, I think, if I'm looking at that correctly. So it's hurt them. There's no doubt, but they're going to adapt that extra week for McVay. Who knows what wrinkles they'll throw out there. I have no doubt that they're not just going to, go out there without any tricks up their sleeves. Like I think they'll be very ready for Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, they've already shown the willingness to adapt where a lot of teams had learned how to defend the jet sweep motion that they've been doing with Woods and Cup and Cooks and Reynolds, where they've been doing that. And even in week 16, week 17, they played 2 tight end sets more than they've ever played it before. Because if you listen to anything at all or read anything at all, you'll know that they played 3 wide receiver sets like 99% of the time. And like people were very quick to point that out. But the last couple of weeks of the regular season, they combated how teams were playing them by putting Higbee and Everett on the field more. So he's already shown the willingness to adapt. I think they'll do it even more with the bye week. So, I wouldn't worry about their offense. But I do think Dallas can control the clock with Zeke. And they've been more efficient passing and running since the Amari Cooper trade. So I think this will be a closer game than expected. It could be higher scoring than expected.
Yeah.
I'm here for the points.
I'll say that.
Yeah, that's what it keeps in my eyes. I'm like, you got Sean McVay and Wade Phillips in an extra week against Jason Garrett. Like, Jason Garrett might end up taking his team to the wrong city. Like, he's so lost. But hey, in credit to him, like, it seems like he's found ways to let other people make other decisions, right? And the defense has looked very stellar. Their run game is up there. But hey, so of the Rams run game, look what they did. CJ Anderson won a lot of people some fantasy leagues with Gurley out.
Yep. Hey, Jack, let me get your opinion real quick, because you like to look at football from a top level too, and not just from a fantasy standpoint. You like to look at it just from a pure like building a football team standpoint. Do you think that Chris Richard, the DB coach, who's been getting head coach interviews, do you think that affects a team at all when they're doing interviews after a playoff game? They still have games to play.
Yeah, you're saying, like, does the fact that he's interviewing affect Dallas in a positive or negative way? Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that, when they're looking at it like a promotion like that, I could see it being a good or bad thing. I guess the obvious point is you think they might hurt their preparation, like if he's doing job interview stuff and try to put together some playbook to show front office people he's maybe not preparing the team as much. I don't know though. That I guess the positional coach seems to. I feel like offensive coordinator would be the one that like I would be the most worried about. But that's tough. What do you think?
I personally don't. I mean, sorry to cut in, Brian. I personally don't think it's that big of a deal, considering, like, at the end of the day, I mean, how many people in that locker room aren't going to be there next year, right? And like, football is a game of high turnover, players playing on, during contract years, and like many questionable things. But when you're this close, and like right now, yeah, Dallas is this close, right? A game away from getting further than they've been in how many years? I have a feeling it's not going to come down to one team being less focused than other. I'd hope so, right? Unless they're just, maybe one team might be less prepared, but I don't think it's going to necessarily affect the focus of a team.
That's true. And I think that, like you said, the difference between an offensive coordinator or a D coordinator versus a position coach is probably a pretty big deal. So, yeah, I think it's a good point you bring up, Jack.
Yeah.
So Chargers, Patriots here, a game where, look, we know who the Pats are. We know what they do come January. And then the Chargers, a team that, like, if you had to historically take this matchup in Foxborough, feels like we know what history is going to tell us. Can it be different this time?
I hope so. I do think this is a different Chargers team. Like, the Chargers almost chargered their way out of the playoffs last week against Baltimore. Like, there were so many Chargers things happening in a row towards the end of that game that I thought this may happen. But this is a different team. I think that the big thing to watch here is the weather. It's going to be 20 degrees, and as we know, especially when temperatures drop below freezing, and as you get into the teens, low 20s, passing game expectations drop. And I've seen reports of snow, still really far out, so we'll see what happens here. But I think the weather will be an impact. The total has dropped 1.5 points. So, Jack, I think this should probably be a lower scoring game than we expect. And I think it'll be very close. I think just on a neutral field, the Chargers are the better team, but some disadvantages here traveling and going in the cold weather.
Yeah, quick question for you guys, and I'd be curious to know if you have the same answer or not. Do you feel like this is the same Patriots team that we get in previous years?
Not at all. Not at all, man. No, I'm with you. Like, I think Brian and I have talked about it for some time. No, we don't think this is the same Patriots team at all. You look at Gronk, like, totally a shell of his former self.
He can
I
really play
mean,
free safety against Hail Marys, though.
right, yeah, that's where they need to put him at for sure this week. And then on the other end, you see, Tom Brady getting open on him in practice or messing around. So yeah, physically they're not the same team, but once again, week of preparation, being at home. This is something Brian and I had talked about it. Where like the Patriots locking up, that first round bye is so key to a team like that. So they're not the same, but they're still the same. Like I think aura around them, right? Like where they doesn't matter the personnel, doesn't matter if people are hurt. Like they're going to put themselves in position to win any given Sunday.
Yeah, I'm also throw another question. You guys more DFS focus for this game. I mean, people like to say the Patriots take away the one thing you do best, and I was trying to think how they might defend the Chargers. I mean, obviously Keenan Allen, Melvin Gordon, but I mean, what are you guys' thoughts on who they might take away or how they might line up?
I would imagine Keenan Allen, and I'm wondering if they put Gilmore on him because Gilmore doesn't play much in the slot, but he actually did some in a couple games this year. So I think that might be the most likely thing they quote unquote take away, just because Melvin Gordon's so banged up. Like he probably won't be 100%. He has 2 MCL sprains, a high ankle sprain. Like he's going to gut it out and play, but I imagine there's a split workload there with him, Eckler, and probably even Justin Jackson some. So
Yeah.
I would imagine they do what they can to take away Keenan Allen, but I'm curious to see if Hunter Henry can make any impact. They have activated him. He'll be healthy. So
according to Stephen A., Hunter Henry is going to be the focal point of the game plan, and Bill Belichick has been losing sleep preparing for him. No, I think that's a reputation the Pats definitely get. But I think once again, like it comes down to like they're going to do what they need to do to put themselves in the best position. And in this case, it might not necessarily be one particular player. It might be making sure, taking like what the Ravens did a few weeks ago when they were able to absolutely destroy the Chargers, right, at the line of scrimmage and blitz from every which way. Like, maybe apply some of that and really, test the Chargers. But at the same time, someone like Phillip Rivers, like I just think it's his time, man. Like I really want to believe in that sort of thing. Like I just, he's been here before. He's seen this isn't anything, he's never experienced. He has the weapons. He really does. Like offensively speaking, probably the best set of receivers he's ever had.
Yeah, the one guy that jumps off to me for that game is Mike Williams. I mean, you're talking about put Gilmore on Keenan Allen. I think they tend to play a lot of single high, and you get some deep routes for Williams. You've seen him explode a few times. He's very boom or bust, but that's exactly the kind of guy he could easily score 25, 30 points at. I'm looking at $4,700 salary.
Easy.
Probably won't be super highly owned. So yeah,
the volume is there. I mean, his role is. Well, let's not forget this is a top 5 pick, right? Like or top 10.
He passes the eye test too. I mean, you watch him go for those balls. Like he's a real player.
No, total beast. And I mean, he's outside of 1 week, I think, like week against the Chiefs, he's had way more targets than Tyrell Williams. But I mean, across the board, LA's offense really gives you a lot about like high upside guys to target.
Yeah, so I'm looking at his last 5 games targets 6'9", 3, 6'5". That's
Yeah, and when there is high value targets as he's getting down the field, like those 5 targets are worth a lot more than someone like I don't know, someone who's getting 5 targets around the line of scrimmage. So, but I think Josh Gordon, that loss is pretty big in this game. Mm-hmm. Like we said with Gronk not being the same player. A tweet came out today. One of the national writers was talking to a coach, and they said when they game planned against Gronk, like they didn't really game plan against him. They just wanted to hit him against the line because he has no chance of stopping and starting again. All of his acceleration is gone, so they're not even worried about him. And so, with no real deep threat in Gordon, Edelman being the main guy, I think it does present some problems for the Patriots' offense as they get deeper in the postseason.
I'm gonna pick the Chargers here. Yeah, an upset. I really hope that It just seems like it's their time, man.
does.
Like, and they won a game that, you know, will bring a team like closer together and give them that extra confidence because that everyone counted them out going into Baltimore. You know, traveling across the map to play, facing a team that just beat you, and at this point, like their confidence has to be through the roof. Philip River, I mean, like they're so talented. Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler, Keenan Williams, Mike Williams. You know, you saw Antonio Gates. You know, a little like flubbing around, catching balls. Hunter Henry coming back in. Their defense has player. It's a perfect storm for them. I mean, 12-4 football team. Like, right. You know, it's easy to forget since they're on the road.
Yeah, I like I said, I'm on the Chargers side too. The weather's gonna be an issue, but this isn't the same Patriots team. I think all three of us would agree there, and I think they're pretty vulnerable.
Yeah, I would take the points. I mean, was it -4?
Yep.
I think. I would definitely take Chargers with 4. It seems like definitely a down on the wire game. Whether or not who wins it, I don't know. But I just hope the Chargers don't lose on another stupid like botched.
Oh no!
You know, name your thing.
Pick your poison. Hopefully not. Well, last game of the weekend, the Eagles at the Saints. Another game where, I mean, you know, I deserve to like get kicked off right now because like I'm just so confident in the NFC being a collision course between the Saints and Rams. Like I might not even watch a play of either of those games.
I won't either, just because I'm still hurt from the Bears loss. But I was talking to both of you today, just off air, that this Eagles defense got a lot of praise from the commentators during the game, and I don't think it's justified. I think it was more of Chicago's offense that didn't show up to play, not necessarily Eagles defense. The last time they played a legitimate offense, Deshaun Watson dropped 4 touchdowns on the road against them. So this will be a much different test. This will be a much different test going against the Saints on the road. We know the Superdome is one of the toughest places to play. So this is a tough spot for the Eagles. I think Nick Foles' magic runs out. Jack, what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, from the football point of view, I would have a hard time betting, you know, Saints -8 or whatever it is, just because I just can't explain the Foles magic, but it keeps happening. But that said, I think they're looking more at backdoor cover kind of situation as opposed to trying to win the game. The only thing I'd say in the Eagles' favor here is, you know, I don't have any stats to back it up, but I think Breeze generally does a lot worse with interior pressure than edge rusher because he likes to step up and release it quickly. You know, short guy, if you're getting in his face, and they have, you know, probably maybe not behind Sue and Donald, the best defensive tackle combo in Jernigan and Cox. So, you know, that might, I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints kind of have some stall periods, but I do think they'll prevail and put some points up. And you know, I'm looking at the receivers again. Ted Ginn sticks out. I mean,
he's back.
You know, he put up a lot of targets, looked good. You know, Michael Thomas will be highly owned, and Ginn's at 4,400. I mean, easy shot at 25 points there.
And 45 on FanDuel. I mean, like, what's his ownership going to be, man?
That's a good question. I'm wondering myself. I imagine it'll be pretty high because, you know, I made a comment on Twitter today on Evan Silva's status, which means like of course I had mentions like throughout the day, and like even though the comment was about the Chiefs, there 2 people talked about Ted Ginn somehow. So I imagine he'll be pretty popular, just judging by this mention extravagance I had today.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, the Eagles secondary is trash. I don't think there's any way around it. With all the injuries they've had, they've certainly played better recently, but you still have backups playing corner. So the Saints will take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and I just hate myself because I'm going like if both the Rams and the Saints lose somehow because I'm so confident, I'm not going to watch any more games the rest of the season. Like
it would be so Dallas to beat the Rams and then like lose to the Eagles in the NFC Championship.
Oh my
game.
God! If I had to watch Dallas versus Philly for the NFC, this would be worst case for me. It would be Dallas versus Philly. And then it doesn't matter at that point. It's already ruined. But if the Patriots won, and then it's like, oh my God.
Patriots Eagles Part 2.
Oh my God.
I'm canceling my Vegas flight if that's the case.
Yeah.
Oh, it's nice you're flying out there.
Yeah. So we're doing the normal thing we do. So my brother Moose is going to be out there. Mike Carey, the guy we talked about betting. Jack, Mike Carey. We'll be out there for Super Bowl, betting props, and we actually have a lot of content planned around the Super Bowl. But we'll have to do some live videos from out in Vegas too. It'll be a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it should be good.
There you go. All right. Any kind of last points here to make for this weekend slate? Any bold predictions? And saying Ted Ginn's is going to go off doesn't count because that's chalk at this point.
Apparently it is.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think we probably hit a lot of the high points. I will say none of the defenses look particularly appetizing to me, so I don't know. Anyone want to call which defense is going to get the touchdown this week?
I'll call the Saints, and I will call. It's going to be two of them. It's going to be the Saints, and it's going to be the Chiefs.
I'll call the Rams.
There you go.
And I will call the Chargers.
Please.
Tom Terrific with a pick 6, maybe.
I hope that happens. I'll be burning candles and praying to the gods that happens.
Eagles and Patriots, just because the Chargers will do something stupid and a ball will get deflected in the air 50 yards high.
Yeah. Probably most likely. I mean, that just seems like a game where they're.
Are you a Chargers fan, or do you just respect Rivers and want him?
I just love Rivers. I mean, I've always been a fan. Even going back to his draft, the 2006 draft, I couldn't stand the other two guys between Eli and Big Ben, and as their careers kind of progressed, it's they have multiple Super Bowl rings. They get the glory. And in my eyes, I'm I take Phillip Rivers over both of them. And the fact that people look at you, well, really until a few years ago, people would look at you crazy. If you said this in 2010 and 2012 and what are you talking about? But it's the sustainability of just Phillip Rivers' game through all these years and to right now how he's playing, right? If it wasn't for Mahomes and Breeze, he would have been an MVP candidate right there. So for me, I'm he deserves it, man. When you look at these other guys playing, it's Drew Brees has already won one, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. So I'd say between Phillip Rivers and just making sure the Saints and the Rams, my Saints and my Rams play each other in the NFC Championship. That's all I want.
Right.
Just for your sake, I hope they play. I really do. I hope those two teams square off in the championship. So,
all right, let me throw one quick one at you guys, and I'm gonna not say anything because I'm a Packer fan. I'm biased. Thoughts on the Matt LaFleur hire?
It's hard to say, right? Honestly, because when you look at some of the Titans numbers and our guy Warren Sharp, had a few points to deliver on it. It makes you kind of hesitant, but then you think about the people he's been around, from Sean McVay to Kyle Shanahan, right? It's just so. I'd say this much: we know he's better than Jeff Fisher, right? We know he's probably going to be better than Mike McCarthy. So, but A-Rod is the real coach. So it's
my single point is, right, he's 39 or something. He grew up playing Madden. And that means he probably knows clock management better than all these other coaches. So I'm cool with it. If you're under 40 and you played Madden, you're probably a better coach than most of these guys. So
no, fair point. That people are going to hate you for that.
Yeah,
Mike McCarthy did not play Madden because he punts on 4th and 2, at the 38-yard line, 4 minutes left, or whatever the hell that play was.
And one of the funniest things about kind of not off-season Twitter, but after the regular season Twitter is over. Now you see people being oh God, please don't hire this guy or that guy, right? And teams are literally torturing their fans with the guys they're interviewing. Even you're oh my God, what is happening?
Yeah.
So he, I don't consider him one of these recycled old boy guys, even though he's obviously connected. I think he has upside. That's more than I could say about McCarthy.
Yeah, dude. I don't care. The last thing you want to hear as a fan is the Packers are bringing in Jim Caldwell and Mike Munchak for interviews this week. And you're my God, please. Because you know what you get with them. I'd rather, it's the same thing. This is way off topic, but bringing in a backup or third string quarterback. It's why would you bring in someone who sucks? Mm-hmm. At least bring in an unknown who might be good. I'd rather that happen than bring in the Mark Sanchez of the coaching world.
No, it's
Yeah,
a great comparison, dude.
Brian and I have talked about this, and we maybe if you guys ever want to do another podcast down the road, like I'll happily
Hell
come
yeah.
back and complain about it. But we talk about like failing the right way.
Yeah.
It's like I would rather hire a retread that's proven, quote unquote, but knows how to fail. You know what I mean?
Right.
Same reason it's like bringing in like Matt Leinart or Matt Barkley instead of so. There's just a whole can of worms on why the teams do that and what the root cause is. But it's really, if you're like you said, tortures
It's
fans.
just, yeah, there's so many inefficiencies in like the decision making process, to whether it's to address like aesthetics or to like make someone feel like, one thing, not to kind of go too much off a tangent, like I was reading about like Andy Reid and back when he used to be an assistant for Mike Holmgren, and Andy Reid, he's a whiz, like, studying different college offenses and like, coming to like, saying, hey, look, like these are a few cool plays. And he was like, yeah. And Holmgren said, like, yeah, he's like, you can do that when you have your team. And I'm like, wow. But then you hear about Andy Reid and how he operates now. Like, he has Brad Childress as his like spread coordinator, and he is always, his coaching staff, they're always looking at, what teams are doing and what colleges are doing. And Pat Mahomes, he came in and they worked with him, right? You saw even Kyle Shanahan, what he did with RG3, he worked with them. So like, adapting to your personnel versus just saying, oh, well, Mark Sanchez knows our system. And then 2 weeks later, what are you doing? Like,
what a novel fucking concept. It's
right.
That's all I can say about that.
Well, for more novel concepts, tune in next week. We might have to get you back here. But no, do appreciate you stopping by here. This is really fun, man. And I know, you could be spending it with like, the top 1% now in the upper class. But...
No, well, Brian, I really, really appreciate it. This has been like super fun, and I hope you can find excuse to maybe we'll add you to G chat.
Hell yeah! Oh yeah!
Yeah, absolutely, man. Jack, we'll obviously we'll talk soon, and thanks for joining. We'll probably do something here down the road in the off season, get you back on, because this was fun, and lots of stuff to talk about. So congrats, enjoy your money, man.
Nice.
Well,
that was fun, guys.